Today I'll be talking about my dissertation, and the title is going to be Academic Help Seeking Through an Intersectional Lens, Special Educational Needs and Disabilities, Free School Meals, and Ethnicity.
Lok Chi, I think you are muted.
Oh no. Did did um did everyone hear my first slide?
Yes, we heard
Oh,
the time.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, these are some of the research gaps that led me to start this research. So, I realized that there has been a lack of research on understanding academic help seeking, or more specifically, asking questions as an important self regulated learning strategy related to learning and performance. So, this was one of the main research gaps. And second is that there is less research that is known about how special educational needs and disabilities intersect with ethnicity, lower socioeconomic status. And in my research, it's measured by free school meals. So a low SES is measured by free school meals in the study, and how special needs and disabilities intersect with other variables to predict academic help seeking behaviors during lessons. And third of all, a lot of help seeking research actually focuses on help seeking intentions rather than actual help seeking behaviors. So, what this means is that there's a questionnaire and students predict on a scale how likely they're going to help seek. So, it might be something if I encounter difficulties in math lesson, I'm likely to help seek and ask questions at class. So, these are called measuring help seeking intentions and not the real manifestation and behavior. So these were the three major gaps that I found in the literature. And this is why I decided to do this research. Now, a little bit on the research context. This was actually a secondary data analysis, and the data source was from Davison 2023's doctoral research from free primary schools in Southeast England. A little bit on the sample characteristics. There were a total of 347 students in year 4 to 6, aged 8 to 11. And there were 7,172 real-time help-seeking episodes collected over 2 weeks. So the first line here with the percentages show Davison's original study. So there were 20.6% with special educational needs and disabilities, 8% eligible for free school meals, 33.5% that were minority ethnic. And the next section, intersectional groups, were variables that I created for my research. So there were 6.4% that were in the category of being with special needs and also in a minority ethnic group. 4.1% that was with special needs and also eligible for free school meals, and 3.1% eligible for free school meals and also from minority ethnic groups. So this is kind of the basic research group. The first section was what Davison had in his original data set, and the intersectional groups were what I constructed in my dissertation. So this comes to my research questions. The first research question is, do people's SEND, so special educational needs and disabilities, ethnicity, and free school meals, whether considered as singular or intersections, predict their agency, belief in ability and effort, and perceived difficulties. So a lot going on right now. So I'm just going to dissect it a bit. So agency, belief in ability is a person's belief regarding how capable they believe they are to succeed in certain tasks. And very similar is agency, belief in effort, which refers to how students think how effortful they can be to succeed in tests. So in this case, I'm looking at how these singular, so how SEND would predict agency, belief in ability, effort, and perceived difficulties or how these intersections that I created, let's say being with special educational needs and also from a different ethnicity, predict agency, belief in ability and effort and perceived difficulty. So this was my first main research question. My second research question was, do pupils SEND ethnicity and free school meals, whether considered as singular or in intersections, predict their situational help-seeking frequencies and instability? And is this moderated by agency beliefs and perceived difficulty? So I'm just going to dissect help-seeking frequency and instability a bit later on, so don't worry. So my first key finding was on referring to the first research question on agency, belief in ability and effort. So the results showed that students with SEND had a lower agency, belief in effort, ability, sorry. And this is represented in the brackets, the statistical figures. So what this speaks to is the fact that students with special needs have a lower belief that they have the ability to achieve a certain goal. So students with SEND have the belief that they have lower abilities to achieve a certain goal. Very similar as students from minority ethnic groups in the study. So non-British students in that study. So these students had lower agency, belief in effort. So they tend to be believe that when they still put in effort, they might not be able to achieve the goals. And then in terms of the intersectional characteristics, I looked at how SEND and minority ethnic groups intersect, and this group showed a lower effort beliefs. Okay. Now, the second key finding is on help-seeking frequency. How was frequency measured? So I coded each lesson under a binary scale. 0 equated to no help sought and 1 equal to help sought. So this was the equation that I used to calculate help seeking frequency. So it was the number of lessons help was sought over total lessons recorded. And the results showed that students with SEND and from a minority ethnic group had a higher help seeking frequency. So they sought help more in class. And this was compared to students with individual characteristics, so only with SEND or only from minority ethnic groups. Now, I'm going to go to talk about help-seeking instability. I'm just going to briefly dissect the equation here. So the equation that I used was root mean square successive difference. So I previously mentioned that 0 was no help sought and 1 equated to help sought. So to calculate the difference, I calculated starting from lesson 2, subtract the previous lesson. I had to square the differences because this eliminates the negative values. Sum all the square differences and divide it by n minus 1, where n equals the total number of lessons. And n minus 1 is used because we lose one comparison. And then we take the square root of that, and this returns the measurement to the original scale. So this might seem a bit messy, but let's look at a worked example. So let's look at student A. So student A seeks help in such a pattern. So 1 is this student A seeks help in lesson 1. 0 is he or she did not. 1, he or she sought help. 0, no help. 0, no help. So there are a total of 5 lessons here. So because the equation tells us to calculate the differences, so we can see that in lesson 2, which is 0, and lesson 1 is 1. So we do a simple minusing equation. So 0 minus 1 equals -1. Lesson 3 minus lesson 2, which is 1 minus 0. And then lesson 4 minus lesson 3, 0 minus 1, again, equals -1. 0 minus 0 equals 0. So then we squared each of the patterns, and we get, and then we sum it up together, divided by n minus 1. So 3 divided by 5 minus 1. So 5 equals the number of lessons, minus 1, equals to 0.75, and we square root it, which is 0.87. So how we interpret this figure is that the higher the root mean squared successive difference, there's the more lesson to lesson inconsistency in help seeking behavior. So the higher the number, the more inconsistent students are in help seeking. Now let's look at the result. The students who are in the intersection of from with SEND and from a minority ethnic group have the highest help-seeking instability with 0.59. So this means that students in this category, in this intersection, seek help most inconsistently across lessons. Now, let's look at the moderation effect. So the results show that the agency belief in ability may buffer these intersectional characteristics in help-seeking instability. So agency belief in ability essentially moderates the relationship between students in this intersectional category and moderates this with help-seeking instability. So the results show that students with intersectional educational characteristics who have stronger beliefs in their abilities to achieve goals may exhibit more consistent help-seeking behaviors and patterns. So if I have the belief, if I'm in this intersection and I have the belief that I have the ability to achieve a certain goal, my help-seeking patterns would be more consistent. So what potential implications are there to my research? The first is to have a more intersectional awareness, just like what I mentioned in the research gap, to not just look at these singular variables, but also to look at how variables intersect together, and potentially look into stability-focused interventions to encourage students to have more stable help-seeking behaviors in each lesson, and agency building approaches to strengthen students' belief in their capabilities, the belief that they have the ability to achieve the goals. Okay, so now we're on to the limitations. The limitation is that this is a secondary data analysis. So you can see that this was not designed for intersectional research, and that's why there was quite a small intersectional subgroup there. The next point is that help seeking instability. So whether a student seeks help in lesson 1 and not in lesson 2 may actually reflect the appropriate responsiveness to task demands. It might be the student did not seek help in lesson 1, but sought help in lesson 2 just because they found lesson 1 more challenging and lesson 2 less challenging. So we don't know what the reason behind this instability is. Now, some future directions would be large-scale intersectional studies with with sampling from the perspective of an intersectional point of view, and instead of using secondary data, using mixed method to understand help seeking instability. So why is that students seek help in lesson 1 but not in lesson 2, and also a longitudinal tracking of agency beliefs and help seeking patterns. And that's it. Thank you so much.